Welcome to Three Shots and a Dot, a brand new cricket podcast featuring four regular cricket fans, three of which love having a shot, whilst the fourth remains a model citizen. Now today, for this very first episode, we'll start off by chatting about the IPL and all the drama from the final. We'll move on to franchise T20 cricket and what this means for the sport going forward. And of course, with the World Cup just a couple days around the corner now, we'll give you all of our expectations and predictions and what we think is going to be happening. Over the course of this one, we'll also chat about captaincy, Hardik Pandya, Rohit Sharma, Sanju, Samson, and the Proteas' chances of finally burying that choker's tag. Now today, I'm joined by one shot and one dot, and of course, I am BoiMaam. Over the course of this series, you'll get to know all of my co-hosts very well, and let's get straight in there. Now, the IPL final took place on Sunday, and it so happens that we have a Sunrisers Hyderabad fan in Kums here. He didn't exactly watch a lot of the IPL this season, but I do understand that he cried a bit on Sunday.
Thanks for having me. But I feel like this is sabotage. You just brought me on here just because of the result yesterday. Yeah, disappointing as you know. I'm sure everyone is. We expected a bit more from Sunrisers, and even if you think of it from an impartial view, you wanted a final. You wanted something challenging. To see the score get chased down so easily was a bit disappointing. I think I would have felt better if we made 200 and then that got chased down, rather than getting bowled out and not even finishing the allocated overs. But as you know, we expected big things. Markram two with the Sunrise franchise two back to back in SA20, and it felt like they were going to go the distance here. They did, but on the day, unfortunately, things didn't work out. So yeah, tears from my side.
So Kuv, like myself, has watched quite a bit of the IPL this season. It's been a bit of an interesting one. What have you made of the whole tournament, Kuv?
Some high scores, unprecedented high scores. But I think that's more to do with this whole impact player change that the IPL has introduced over the last two seasons. I personally am not a fan of it. I think it takes away from the bowlers. But you did see the bowlers coming back into it towards the end of the tournament. I think that was more because of the pitches. It wasn't necessarily specific venues. Just for some reason, the bowlers just did better as the tournament went on. Prime example is Mitchell Stark. At the start of the tournament, he was getting carted all over the ground. And then he just came clutch in both the games against SRH. So it wasn't a one-time thing. The final was almost a carbon copy bar the last 5 overs of the Sunrisers innings of the first qualifier. It was essentially the same. They were 4 down for under 40. So I think the better team won. The better team across the whole tournament. People have been going on and on and on about the Sunrisers batting lineup, and fair enough. I mean, they've posted 3 of the hugest totals we've ever seen in the game. But as a consistent batting unit, KKR were by far the more dominant batting lineup. They were consistent. They had 2 good openers. Middle order came into it. Venkatesh towards the end of the tournament, he pulled off a good few knocks. But I think all in all, it was a fair winner. Can't have any qualms about that.
The thing is, if you look back 5-10 years ago, 200 was a big thing, and I think that's taken away from a lot of the excitement. 5-10 years ago, if someone chased down 200, you were like, wow, what a banger. Did you see? It's something you'd phone your friends and say, hey, did you see they chased on 200? Do you feel like that now? What did we have? Like 13 or 15 hundreds as in centuries? Again, 5 to 10 years ago, if someone made a century in T20 cricket, it was a big thing. Right? And maybe a bit controversial, you decide what you want to do with this piece. But if you watch tournaments like the BBL, bigger grounds, more balanced pitches, it's not a thing. It's not a thing. But it feels like the IPL to me is getting, it went from a time where 160 then became 170, 180, 190, and now 200 is almost a given on any day. You know, uh, what are we seeing scores like 270? That was unheard of in the
Ridiculous.
past. Um, but why only in the IPL? Why only in India? I know smaller grounds, but are the pitches getting better? Are they favoring batsmen more? Is it a batter's game?
In the
I'll,
IPL,
I'll pick up
yes.
with I'll pick up on something that David Warner actually mentioned in a recent interview. He was talking about how his entire experience in this IPL has been rather new to him. He said in the past, even the previous season playing with Delhi, there was 1 200 score, and this season there's been countless, and they've been going really hard. Delhi went from being one of the poorer outfits in the IPL to absolutely smashing it towards the end. Of course, they didn't do enough to make the playoffs, but again, there were still scores. Hyderabad comes up for me as something so strange. I've been used to seeing scores down in the middle in Andhra Pradesh, where whether it was at Vizag or at Hyderabad itself, low scoring venues. The Sunrisers are traditionally a side that defended well, bowled well with Booby swinging the ball a bit. At times, it felt like is this engineered? The pitches were
Yeah,
all
look,
really flat,
I'm gonna
compact,
jump
and
in.
solid.
I'm gonna jump in and cut you off because that's the kind of show we have here. Rajiv Gandhi's always had one or two strips that behaved really well and was a batting paradise, but not 270, not 200 plus. It
Never.
was you had that one or two, but yes, you're correct. For the most part, if you look back in the history, Sunrise had the best bowlers. It was a type of
Mm.
wicket, whether you're playing at Rajiv Gandhi or at Vishakhapatnam, where your bowlers like Dale Steyn, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, if you think about all the fast bowlers, at some point or the other, they had a stint with Sunrisers and did well. Even guys like, what's this guy's name from New Zealand? Bolt.
Old
Bolt
Saudi.
also had a stint with
Mm.
Sunrisers. Sandeep Sharma came out of,
Mm-hmm.
couldn't get a
Punjab.
game to Sunrisers to being a killer at Sunrisers. Because of the nature of the type of tracks that they had, it was bowling friendly, and you spot on that. If you posted a score of like 140, 150, you could defend that. What did we see this season? I don't know.
Mm. Yeah,
Mishmash, a
to
road.
cut you off because that's the type of show we have.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
no, no, no. All valid points, and those definitely played a part. But I think the impact player is the biggest contributing factor to
Mm,
that.
mm, mm,
Let's
mm, mm,
take
mm,
let's break down that game that Sunrisers scored 270 plus.
Oh
They
yes.
were 120 after the power play. That means
Mm.
in 15 overs they scored 150. So it's not so much about the track; it's
mm,
about them going hard in the power play. So all the big
Yeah.
scores that you would have seen in the tournament, they all had freaking huge power plays. It's the batsmen going
mm, mm,
hard
mm,
at
mm,
the start. If they lose 1 wicket, it's fine. If they lose 2 wickets, maybe almost. As soon as they lose three, then they go back into the shell like
mm.
it's a normal T20 game again. And I
Yes.
think
Yes.
we were
Yes.
I
speaking
think we were
about
also
that
talking about
about two
this
weeks ago. Yeah,
offline. Yeah. Mm,
if
mm,
yeah,
mm,
if
mm.
they lose 3 wickets in a power play, that's essentially they only lost 1 wicket if they can bring an additional batsman at the end.
Exactly.
So it makes a
Mm,
massive difference. If your openers go hard and if they get off to a flyer, more often than not, you're scoring 220 plus.
mm.
So I think it's more that specific rule rather than it being anything drastic on the pitches or the small boundaries or anything of the sort. It's the batsman basically just taking the game away from the bowlers in the power play, and that sets you up for a high score. Because you can even
Yeah.
go at
Mm.
a run rate of 8 in the middle of overs, push to 12, 13 at the end, and then you're at 240 already. So
Very easily. Mm. I think that freedom that batsmen had. Hardik Klaassen came out as well and said that they know they're going to play a certain style with the Sunrise that was just go hard, go hard, go hard, and every single batsman that came in just went really hard. And they did the same thing in the final, even though it didn't play out very well in that first playoff. I was actually quite surprised that they didn't, as you said, you lose 2 or 3 wickets and then step back a little bit, go into your shell. They didn't do that, and I think it eventually what came to bite them in the ass, so to say. If they did, I think they could have got to about 170 in that final and maybe dragged it over the line. But
no, but
as
that's
you
what you
said
see. If
much
they
earlier,
if they don't pull back, then that's what happens. Then the game is bombed. So
absolutely goes to absolute crap. The ball has been in the IPL. Okay, we've been giving the the batsman a bit of a hard or short end of the stick here, saying that the game has progressed a bit towards the batting end. But first 6 overs in most games, the ball swung quite a bit. It's just that as the game tailed off, if there wasn't any dew factor in the second
So
innings
I
in
want
most
to touch
games,
on that as
it looked
well.
like it was just flat, flat, flat.
But if you look at yesterday's
That's okay.
game as well, some analysis there, um, the first 6 overs, the ball did a bit of work, and I was disappointed with the Sunrisers batting because of the same reason. The ball was moving around, and what you do traditionally on a swinging track is respect the new ball. You don't have to capitalize on the power play; just keep wickets in hand, and you can really make something in the back end. That's classical of a swinging track. Because once the ball, and these white balls don't swing for too long, 4 to 6 overs at most. Once that period is over, you can really go for it. So I was a bit disappointed with them there because, when you're getting out of the power play 3 or 4 down, it becomes a bit of a problem to then go hard later on. And we saw that, right? We saw two really good balls, and then we also saw Markram and Klaassen in a position where they felt the pressure now to take the game on further. And I feel like, if they had come in maybe a little bit later, or there was a little more calm or strategy at play rather than just going aimlessly and while, headless hitting, yeah, you could have got at minimum 170 on that track yesterday.
Is this the way the game's going though? I mean, there's a lot of T20 cricket being played, and for me, it almost feels like T20 cricket exists aside to cricket as a whole. It seems like the general stance, if you watch, Travis Head is a very good example. He's an excellent test and ODI cricketer. But if you watch him in the IPL, it's almost like he comes up with a loss of technique of sort. It's just gung ho, absolutely gung ho. And I think this begs a question: does the IPL and the whole host of other international franchise tournaments now pose a massive threat to Test cricket and the future of Test cricket?
Okay.
Ooh.
You used a good example there, Travis Head. So let me rephrase that, what you just said. You say he's a very good test and ODI player, yes. But is his white ball cricket influencing his test cricket and blowing up his numbers at a strike rate of 80 plus consistently in test cricket? Is that test cricket, or is that test cricket evolving? Is that the test cricket that we love and grew up watching, where it's a ball versus bat, you set up the batsman and then you get him out? And Travis said, now we're saying now, yes, he's this fantastic test match batsman with this great average, but at a strike rate of 80 plus. So is that the way that test cricket is going to go moving forward? Or do we want to revert back to the old, let's call it medieval test cricket?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm in favor of this exciting cricket as well. The whole Baz ball thing that came out where, you like to see test matches where there's a bit of counter attacking. Where it's mindless and where Baz ball has gone wrong, as we've seen in recent times, is exactly that. Sometimes there's a bit too much emphasis put on just going out there and having fun or hitting the ball, and no emphasis put on strategy and thinking about it, patience. Now we're not telling everyone to go out there and bat like Rahul Dravid, right? But we're telling them
That was
to,
enjoyable.
maybe. Yeah, but you get what I'm saying, right? You're telling them, maybe go in there and think about it, And there are players,
Because
there are
then
good
you
examples
could
of
you
really
could take an
aggressive.
hour break and then nothing would change in the game. You could go have lunch,
Absolutely.
come back, Dravid is still on 3 of 50. So it's okay. Like you didn't lose out much. Now if you leave the couch, you miss a 20-run over.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. No, that's exactly what
You're
happened. I mean,
spot on, man.
if you think about like baseball cricket, right? Like those innings Johnny Bairstow and stuff played when this thing became the buzzword. Um, in a session, the thing was changed. They made like 200 runs in a session, out of nowhere, where sixes and fours have been bashed in Test cricket. What is that now? Yeah, it works, but it's not going to work in every session. Maybe one or two
Mm.
out of a full 5-day test.
Does that have then a positive influence on Test cricket in the sense that now you don't really want to miss a whole session? Whereas before you said, let me go buy some groceries, I'll come back, then I'll catch the afternoon session. Whereas now you're like,
No,
can I really miss the tea time?
Look, I think that's a difficult one because
It is.
whilst baseball might be drawing new fans into Test cricket, I don't think they're coming for what Test cricket actually is. Now, I could sound a bit of a traditionalist in that sense, but Test cricket is where you hone your skills. It is the bare bones of cricket itself, hard stuff. It's bowlers swinging the ball and making it go always, and then batsmen trying to get up against it and somehow find a score. It's those moments when Graham Smith walks out of the broken anything and an
Mm.
entire Australian crowd goes up and cheers for him because it is almost surreal, the passion put into the game. Now it's kind of, if I don't see a 4 or 6, what am I watching? For me, I still enjoy watching a good straight up pace bowler early first session. There's a bit of cloud cover overhead, swinging the ball, nipping it past the edge 5 times, no wicket, still exciting. Likewise, a batsman
So
knuckling it out for a really long time and finding a way, because that is where you see actual skill in the game.
So AB and Kohli, two nice examples I like to always pick up on Test cricket, right? Before T20 became a big thing, these two obviously played Test cricket and they had a real impact in Test cricket. But what were they known for in Test and ODI
Hmm.
cricket? They were known for changing the momentum of the game, not by
Yes,
hitting fours
100%.
and sixes. They took those quick singles and twos and they brought that into the T20 scene, but later developed, these flipping helicopter sixes between your left nut and right nut. And the thing is, but no, if you think about it, right, when AB was a lighty, when he came in, he was this guy that just brought energy into the crease. He wasn't hitting sixes and fours in Test cricket, but he took those singles. Suddenly now, the opposition in Test cricket, you bowl in packs. So you're bowling 6 overs, 6 overs, or 5 overs, 5 overs, and then maybe AB. Let's take an example: is batting with Smith. Smith is facing. Give me some bowlers from that time when AB was younger and Smith was batting. Um, give me
Steve
give me a
It could
bowler
be
Harmison.
from
from
anyway. Glenn
yeah, from
McGrath,
anywhere.
you could go to Shane Bond, you could go to Shaminda Vass, you could swing around the world, Matthew Ogard, Steve
Okay,
Almerson,
okay,
the
okay.
Brett Lees of the
Let's
world.
go. Shaminder Vas. Who would he have bowled with? Some other person, right? So what
Yep.
you want in
Interesting
Test
combinations,
cricket.
though.
Yeah, but in Test cricket, you want to pin one batsman that you have his number as a bowler, right? So say you've got Graham Smith's number as a left armer, Chaminda Vas. You want to pin him on one end and you don't want there to be disruptions here. Graham Smith is a left-hander, AB is a right-hander. You get where I'm coming from with this, right? Now, when you
Yes,
bring an
yes, yes.
electric guy to the crease, he's taking singles, he's disrupting the flow. Now he's taking Smith off strike. He's taking a single off the last ball. That's I think that element of the game is gone, which used to be exciting in itself.
No, 100%. So to answer your question, yes, I think the sheer number of these T20 tournaments, obviously the IPL is on top of the mountain. And I
Mm-hmm.
just feel that every single cricketing nation is trying to host their own tournament to get to that level. And it's the same with the SA20. Yes, it's blown up now and it's new for us as South Africans. And it's exciting. We get to watch our own young talent play. But at the end of the day, it's all about money. They want to get to a point where they are making a lot of money from these tournaments and they are getting the viewership. I think CSA, for example, I think if you go and watch our local games before the
Yeah.
SA20, I
Paltry.
mean, you could get tickets for like 10, 20% of what they're actually worth.
Yeah.
And now they maybe thought that this was a way to bring in viewership. And by doing that, they thought, okay, maybe we can increase our revenue. And obviously, those came with its own set of problems. And
Hmm.
that was, take for example, the Test series versus New Zealand. What squad did we send there? And I don't see that. I don't
Ridiculous.
see
Yeah.
that. I don't see that changing anytime soon. If these players are contracted to play these tournaments, where now they've got to get out of their, let's call it, national contracts to do so, they're going to do that for the money, and they're not going to have a choice. Because I mean, the players who played in the SA20, the Proteas, they didn't have a choice. It wasn't like they chose to play in the
Yeah.
SA20 versus representing the national team. I think that's one thing people must understand. it wasn't a player's choice. It was a contractual
yes.
obligation. And I can see that happening
Yeah.
for the rest of the nations as well. So it's a big issue.
See, I
Not
mean,
only in the style
think
of
of it the
play,
other
but
way, right? Think about the BCCI and what they've done with IPL and Indian cricket, which I don't like. I'm a big fan of Indian cricket, but the problem is, why do we not see these players even playing for the same franchises abroad? Because they contracted to the Indian team only, and they're not allowed to go and play outside. So then what happens is they retire, and then there's still a 1 year cooling off period for guys like I think who we saw
Yeah.
recently was Robin Uthappa and Suresh Raina playing like in the ILT T20, but they had to retire and then have the 1 year cooling off. Now I'm not saying that it's the worst thing in the world. Yeah, your workload may be heavy, but how are you going to expose your Indian batsmen to play outside of India if they're only playing IPL on 400 wickets? And not exposed to playing in balanced pitches in Australia, where the boundary size is more than 10 meters.
It does seem to be the way things are going. I actually saw Siddharth Kaul. Remember him? Played for the Sunrisers as well. I saw him bowling against Shan Masood in the county championship. Quite interesting stuff there. But now this brings up another thing. As Kuv is mentioning,
just before we end there's one more point I want to make on these tournaments.
Go for it.
The other thing that happens, and I've seen it over the last 2 years, is concurrent tournaments. So you'll get a player that plays half the tournament with one franchise in one tournament. He does extremely well, but then they don't have him for the back end of the tournament. Now that's just a
Then the
joke to
team
me.
changes
Like
completely.
you played a completely different team in the back end of the tournament. And take for example Nicholas Puran when he played for DSG.
And then
He
walked
was
away.
he played like 3 or 4 games, averaging over 60, strike rate over 150, and there's like
And
there's
then
you
you play for
guys. Then they
Mumbai
bring in
Emirates or
Stoinis.
something.
Then they bring in Stoinis. He does the same. He's on fire, and then he's gone for the playoffs. So
literally,
like I mean, how is that going to work in the future?
It's
It
pissed
doesn't
off
make
a lot
sense.
of people because a similar thing happened with a lot of players pulling out of the PSL, the Pakistan Super League. And then a lot of them were for nonsense reasons. I'm injured, I have this, I have that. And then a week later, they're playing in the
But that's
IPL.
politics. That's
Look,
politics.
Exactly.
The sad thing
That
is,
is BCCI. That is BCCI
but it
and
comes down to the
politics,
same thing.
unfortunately.
It comes down to the same reason that Nicholas Puran and Stoinis and the likes left the SA20. The SA20 was the second highest paid tournament, fair enough. But these lads, the only reason, as Kuv mentioned earlier, the only reason they moved across was money. And it's all coming down to that. It seems like cricket's just moved
Also,
that
what you
way
boys are
completely.
forgetting is when you played in the SA20, you're fighting for 4 spots as an international. Sorry, I'm jumping over you there.
Yes. Look. The ICC have actually they clamped down on that a bit. So the MLC, the Major League Cricket, we'll come on to that in a bit just now. But Major League Cricket currently features 6 international players in their starting 11s.
Yeah, but ILT allows, if I'm mistaken, now if I'm correct, only supposed to have one player from the region. So they play 10 internationals in their side, and they have the super sub. So technically, you can play 11 internationals and just keep subbing your, let's call him your Emirati, out of in and out your squad as you please. So what happens there is, Puran, Stoinis, and the likes fighting for 4 spots in SA20, potentially earning double the salary in the Emirates. And you're not fighting for a spot anymore because they don't really have any homegrown cricketers where rules are there to protect them. And that's a problem.
Are they earning this tax free as well? Because that would make it quite lucrative.
Probably, exactly. So that's another thing.
But it all comes down to money. Whichever way you want to spin it, it's money. That's what
leading on from that, then from as we were saying, it's all about the money. So we all watch football outside of cricket, and traditionally, or to most fans, I'm sure most people will agree, club football is, apart from a World Cup final, if your country is involved, club football or the bigger tournaments like the Champions League are the pinnacle of the sport. You will put your house on that rather than, or at least in our case, watch Bafana play. Now, is cricket heading the same way? Are we going towards a picture where franchise cricket is going to supersede playing for your country, like it has happened in the West Indies in the past, at least.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a firm believer that that will be the case because we see it becoming harder and harder and more political to make your 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 national squad. So each place has its own problems, right? You guys know in South Africa, there's the problems that they have. In Australia, there are problems that they have. There's also they also have the other problem of too many good cricketers. And then do you pick people on pedigree or form? Same story in India. There's too many cricketers now with the development of cricket. So, you're always going to get, and I think it's someone like Tim David as an example, probably a bad example now because he made it into the Australian squad. But when he was still sort of lost in the thing, being a Singaporean cricketer, it was a case that this kid can make money. He can play cricket the whole year because there's tournaments, like Kuv was saying, everywhere. He can start off playing in Bangladesh and then move to Pakistan, India, go over to the Caribbean, come to South Africa and do whatever he wants. And or do I hold out and try and play that 6 games a year for Australia?
Now, to be fair, I don't think you can blame any of them. Cricket traditionally hasn't been the highest paying sport, and in the past, at least before the advent of a lot of Ram Slam T20 action, your career was relatively short. You probably had a 10-year span at the top level. Now it's probably expanded a little bit further. And as we've already mentioned, there's a lot more. There's a lot more players vying for the same places. So I think from poorer countries, it's almost a natural choice. You get the opportunity to take it, but it's a sad state of affairs when you think that we grew up watching cricket, and for us, watching South Africa lose in big tournaments all the time was always heartbreaking because you had so much attached to it. You always felt like we need to win one here. And over the course of the next 10 years, I would think that a kid growing up in South Africa is not going to have too much care for whether the Proteas do anything on the international stage or not.
I think to draw on your football comparison, I think the big difference is that in football you play for one club. You can't play for this club and then the next tournament go play for that club and then go to play for the
100%.
other club. So I think it's going to be even worse than football. I think people are not going to, and when I say worse, I mean it's not going to be about the title, because you can then win 7 out of 10 titles a year and you're happy. Next year I'll win 5 out of 10. Next year I'll win 4 out of 10, but I'm still getting my full salary, so it's fine. So I think it's going to be worse in that sense. Like, if you're going to just be hopping between tournaments, who are you to say which one means more to you? Which one is your Champions League? You don't know.
Oh, yeah.
As long as you get paid, you're fine. So I think it's
Yeah,
going to
there's
be
also
worse.
no sense of accountability. We see it in a few tournaments as well, where you're coming in to play 6 or 8 games, 10 games at a stretch, and if you're in bad form, you can still come out swinging. And there's sometimes it feels like there's no sense of accountability there, especially those finishers or those big money signings. We've seen it, right? In every tournament, there's this one you're like, how the hell is he in such bad form? Why is he being so silly? Why is he just coming out and swinging like that? I mean, play your 6 games, you still get paid, and then move on to the next tournament. Maybe you'll get in form when you go there, better batting wickets or something like that.
Look, it's something that I think the one good thing the MLC did, the Major League Cricket, they introduced a salary cap to try and counter a lot of that action, and they still have managed to agree quite a few big contracts going into their 2024 season, which will start fairly soon after what is probably the biggest cricket
But
spectacle we have.
what is a salary cap in one of 15 tournaments going to do?
15 tournaments. I think if it becomes
The good
the status
players,
quo,
if
the
the good
norm,
players, if the good players say, "Nah, I can get more somewhere else," then they'll just go somewhere else, and then the MLC is going to suffer because they're not going to attract the best players because they can't pay them as much as another concurrent tournament that's happening at the same time can pay them. So
yeah, and
it can work both
it's
ways.
something that almost happened with the SA20. Soon after the fixture list was released for the SA20, or at least the previous edition, the United Arab Emirates T20 League tried to compete with the SA20. Somehow or the other, the Indian backers for the SA20 decided to pay above the odds to keep players. And as you're saying, that's pretty much going to be the story going forward. Now, as sad as all of that may be, and it seems like we're harping on about a bunch of broken eggs here that just aren't going to hatch, the T20 World Cup is coming up. And seeing as we all really love international cricket, what do we think this is going to be like? How much of a shift are we going to head away from the IPL, ram, bam, thank you, ma'am, 200s every game? Or are we getting back to proper cricket now?
I think we'll normalize after the IPL. So I saw a stat today that since early 2021, the average run rate across the Caribbean, all grounds, is like 7.91. So it's going to favor the slower bowlers. I think the countries that have good spinning options, I think they're going to do well. I think they're going to tighten up in the middle overs. I think teams are still going to go hard in the power play, and that's just going to be bleeding from the IPL. But I think after the first 2 rounds of fixtures, I think teams are going to get caught out, and then they're going to readjust their game plans, and we're going to see a bit more tightly contested affairs.
And I think that's what we want, and that's what I want as well. I want a bit of thinking. So there's going to be a bit of discovery in the beginning where you're finding your feet. These are unfamiliar conditions for a lot of the world, because remember, even when the big teams go to the West Indies and play in the Caribbean pitches, they don't send their best players there, or they haven't in a long time. So there's going to be a bit of discovery. And yeah, I think you're going to see the averages and strike rates, like Ko was saying, really come or normalize. If you're going to go into this expecting 250s and 260s, I don't think you're going to get that easily. Yes, you'll get one or two, but you're going to get a bit more balanced cricket. You're going to get, having to show respect for a particular bowler, good fielding coming back into play. Maybe a bit of weather as well. I don't know. I haven't looked at the weather, but yeah, when it rains down there, it rains proper. So yeah, that's another thing to take into account.
Yeah. No, Coombs, I think just going on from your earlier point of, whether selection is made on form or pedigree. I think you'd see from the squad list from all the countries, they've all gone pedigree. Just because of that, just because of the uncertainty. They're going with the tried and tested people that they know can change the game plan during the game, between games, that are flexible. I think a good example of that is the whole hype around Jake Fraser McGurk and the form that he had in the IPL and why Australia didn't pick him. It's just you can't play that wham bam 60 off 20 every game in this World Cup on those pitches. So the Australian selectors, I personally feel, made a good decision. I know there was a big hoo-ha about why he hasn't been selected because he's giving it every game. But I mean, you've got to be practical. You've got to be realistic. You don't know what's going to happen. You're not going to get IPL type games here. So I think a lot of the major countries, they've put their faith in their tried and tested army, and you're going to see the old guard come to the fore this tournament. That's what I think.
I think you're spot on with that. A lot of teams have gone quite experience heavy, as you're just saying, and I think you're going to see a lot of value from middle order batsmen that know how to manage games. I'm a big Aiden Markram fan, so obviously I'm gonna pop his name up there to be quite solid in the World Cup. But other teams like Roston Chase for the West Indies, or funnily enough, players like Maxwell are actually going to come up quite valuable for Australia, even though Maxwell plays like a bit of a monkey for in the IPL. I think he has it within him to hold an innings together. Likewise with India and Virat Kohli, and they've gone with a very, very experienced side. Majority of the squad is over 30, and I think all the big sides have done that. Fraser McGurk, big miss. He's travelled as a reserve. I think, unlike you, I think maybe you would have offered them something with so much experience around him. I think that maybe going hard at the top, because Warner's being absolutely horrible in recent times, for me at least. I think they needed a little bit of an injection of youth there. But apart from that, as you're saying, there's going to be a lot of games that end with 175s that good bowling is going to do more than smashing batting, I would think, in the tournament.
The other thing you must remember now is, like, I think the thought process of selectors would be like, we don't have this impact player again. I think that yes. Adjustment from people who've played in the IPL and have now come into these World Cup squads, that's where the experience is going to come in. They're going to recognize that, listen, this is a different game altogether. With these young guns, I agree. Sometimes you need that injection of youth, but without that fallback of an impact player, you can't afford him going 6 games with only 2 scores, and then you put pressure on that middle order. I mean, by all means, that could still happen with the current openers, but I think that's just me being pedantic about the whole thing. That's what I would like to
No,
see, and I think it's
but I think you are spot on there. I think I don't totally disagree with that at all. I just all I was alluding to is that there needs to be a little bit of something to distinguish the side, so to say, because everyone has kind of gone on the same approach as you're saying. They've all gone. Okay, we're going to keep this stable and play to those cards because stability is probably going to take us the furthest in the tournament.
okay.
As with any
Let
big
me
tournament.
let me put it another way. Then these young players who come and play in a certain style, are they able to hold the innings together? I don't think so. These old
I don't
guard
think so.
that can hold it, that can hold an innings together. Can they accelerate if needed? Yes. So I would rather go that way. It's just a way
I
of
can agree
thinking.
with that.
Yeah,
No, I
it's
can agree
always a
with
bit
that.
of a hit and miss.
I don't. Likewise, I don't think that the young guns are well suited to carrying an innings or to stabilizing down the line or playing the match situation as well as the older guys are. And you pretty much on the ball there with can the older guys go hard? I think in most cases they probably can, except for a few that maybe we'll mention at some point that possibly a little bit washed and have made squads probably more for the experience than for what they can actually offer on the field. They are all short squads, 15-man squads. There's some traveling reserves that have gone with. But what we're going to see is pretty much cricketers that we've seen for the last 8 to 10 years. And on those grounds, what do we think? Who do we think is going to be really strong in the tournament? Who do we think is going to come up short? Is it going to be the same old top four? Or are we going to see something new for a change?
I'm going to be controversial here.
Yeah. Go.
I think India is not going to make the semis. I think that they
Big
are
shouts.
going to be found out, and it's going slightly against what I've just said. But I just have a feeling that there's going to be too many people in that squad that are going to have a little bit of an IPL hangover, because they're going to try and inject some youth along with the experienced players. And I think the youth is going to trump the experience, and I think that they're going to fall short. I think players like Surya Kumar, Yadav, I think they're going to have bad tournaments. That's my one controversial. Is controversial the right word? That's my
I think
one.
it's brave
Yeah,
to say the least.
It's
it's
one
fine
brave
because I think
brave prediction. So
yeah.
that's my one.
Look, I mean, we saw what you are saying from the English side in the last World Cup, where everyone thought we'd get these big things. So, yeah, I think that's brave. I also think India will come unstuck. The same for Pakistan. They may excel from a bowling perspective, but I think again, batting, the subcontinent pitches are not what we used to think subcontinent was, especially what you get in Pakistan and India. It's becoming or it's become too batting friendly, and when you're playing like that and you're only exposed to that kinds or that kinds of pitches and conditions, you become a bit one-dimensional in your playing. So I think experience will work. Experience will matter in this World Cup, but you're going to get the win coming from probably Australia, England, and I mean, we all like to see South Africa there, but Australia, England, New Zealand are probably going to come and ask some serious questions. And New Zealand's always been there, so it's not. I don't think we should now there was a point where it was like, that's New Zealand, that's New Zealand. But come big tournament, those guys have nothing special about them, but they're always there because they all think. They never have that big X factor, Liam Livingston, that can hit a 300 meter six as an example, but they all have they somehow went to cricketing school, and they all have the ability to think and play the situation, um, especially under pressure. So I think New Zealand will be there. Side looks pretty well balanced. It'd be nice to see them win. And again, nice to see South Africa there, hopefully.
I'm just going to go back to Kuv's point and his brave prediction there of India not making it to win the I almost said IPL there, to win the World Cup. I have a bit of a bone to pick here. Do we think that between Rohit Sharma and Hardik Pandya that we're actually going to get a side that's well led? There's been a lot of controversy in the IPL.
No.
Two ends. We
That's
immediate
also
knows.
That's also one of the reasons why I say that they're going to come unstuck. And I knew you were going to ask me about that. So that's why I just left that to the side, because that is a major issue. And let's speak about Hardik Pandya first. My personal opinion of him, I know he's not going to be the captain in the World Cup. That's Rohit Sharma. But let's go back to Mumbai Indians in the IPL. I think he's way too selfish of a captain. If you go back to his
I
Gujarat
agree.
Titans days, where he won the IPL, there he played as an out-and-out batsman. He wasn't bowling. This season with Mumbai Indians, he threw himself into the bowling attack. Why? I don't understand. To be the hero? To think that the captain leads from the front? I don't think he's a good leader. But I also do think he has a clique around him. He's a nice guy. He's definitely a nice guy. And I think the egos of the new guard versus the old guard in that Indian squad is going to be somewhat of a problem for them come the tournament. And especially because the IPL is so fresh in our memories. It's not like they've got time to go back, regroup, get onto the same page. The IPL literally finished yesterday, and the tournament starts next week. I just think.
So I
it's
wanna
an
get
issue.
stuck into that as well. While everyone's bashing Hardik Pandya, I think the whole world is bashing him now. But it's true, and I've been saying this for years and years and years. He's one of the most selfish captains I've ever seen. You think of what a captain is meant to be. Captains are those like unsung heroes. They're not there. Think of the best captains, of all time. They're not there to steal all the thunder. Yeah, they get all the praise eventually at the end, but in the beginning, they like those unsung heroes. I remember Hardik Pandya coming in his Gujarat days when he could start bowling again. Ball is swinging today. They're playing on a grassy pitch. Hardik Pandya opens bowling. Ball's not swinging today. Hardik Pandya is nowhere to be seen. Can't bowl. That's a selfish captain. Um, you know, batting surface. Hardik Pandya in at number 3. What nonsense is that? And then on those batting surfaces, when he played for Gujarat, couldn't look at his stats. He was making 50s off like 40, 35. That's not good enough for batting number 3, for batting the whole innings. And they said, yeah, okay, he won them the IPL because he held the innings together. I'm sorry, that's luck. A better captain would have, went in at those tough times, would have bowled those overs, the last over of the power play, the maybe the 19th over, the 20th over, or when one of your kids are having a bad day and can't bowl his full quota, your young star, whatever, take that over from him. Team loses 4 quick wickets. The captain of the side, to me, should be the brains behind the operation and not necessarily your best player. And we've seen that from the best captains. We've seen that from Dhoni. We've seen that from, people like Dasun Shanika is a lovely example that I like to use. There's nothing special about him, but he captains the side pretty well. He
I
comes and
think,
does all that
sorry
hard
to
work that
jump
no one
in.
wants to do.
To jump in, Scott Edwards is a name that stands out a lot. And
Scott Edwards is
Scott
another
Edwards is
prime
a
example here in the Netherlands,
brilliant
right?
example.
So there's nothing crazy about him. He's a really good player, but look at his tactical ability and look at his situational awareness. That's a big thing for me as a captain. So when things are going good, Scotty doesn't even come into bat. But when things are tough, then he's the one that comes there and digs in a bit deeper and tries to save the game. But what is he really known for? He's known for his field placings, his choice of bowlers, etc., etc., etc. That's what a captain needs to be. Captain's not your best player.
Just while you
I
while you
agree.
on that, while you're on that, very briefly, sorry to cut you off there, Kuv.
No
Being
stress.
in the Netherlands, what are the opinions? Do you think they're going to come up with a few upsets again this tournament? Do you think the Netherlands can go further than they have in the past?
Being in the Netherlands, that has nothing to do with anything because here they don't even know that cricket exists. They think it's a little creature that runs outside your house. Cricket, cricket. Yeah. So I think again it's Scotty Edwards. It's up to him and what he makes of his team. Yeah, we know there's limited resources. Cricket's not a big sport here. It's also a very small country, so you're picking from something where even if you're going to take it a step further, salaries are lower. So it's not like you're incentivized to go spend your whole life and dedicate it to cricket. Looking at that cricket side, it is a combination of the rest of the world. So is it really a Dutch side with Scotty Edwards from New Zealand and um, I can't even
Our
remember.
boy
There's Indian
Rulof.
players, there's Pakistan
Rulof.
players,
Rudolph's actually been
there's
dropped. Rudolph's been
there's
dropped.
Is
Rulof,
it?
Save run. Yeah, he
Okay.
has. He has. Save run Engelbrecht is still in there
who was a
though.
South
So
African. Yeah, was a South
yeah,
African. Yeah.
it's just
So
Okay.
there's quite a
That's
yeah, I
few.
Netherlands'
mean the
problem. They're already
Yeah,
out.
I agree.
no, look, I mean,
We said
you're not
this
expecting
before.
big things. Yeah,
We said
you're
this
not
before, and
expecting big things
they
from
put a
them.
nail in our coffin.
Well, that's South
Mm.
Africa, though, right? And that maybe that's the thing they have. But the thing for these smaller teams is that's what they come there to do, right? So everyone expects
Mm.
you as a big team. This is an easy game. This is a walkover. Lose against one of those teams, and suddenly your tournament is. If Australia loses against Afghanistan once, when that was supposed to be a banker game,
Yeah.
suddenly you've got
Mm.
rethinking to do. And I think that's what these smaller teams are there to do. So if it's going to be the Netherlands again, I'll probably cheer them on.
Yeah. But now this tournament, the problem is there's smaller teams and then there's whooping boys. So
Ooh, absolutely.
it's gonna be an interesting tournament.
Wait, give me
Just
whooping,
to be
boys.
clear.
I missed this. What is whooping,
Uh,
boys?
so we're saying for a change, the tournament's moved to 20 teams from the traditional 16. It's now 4 groups of 5, 4 games each side. And
There's
there's teams like
Uganda.
Oman and Uganda and Papua New Guinea now included. We
Ah,
are
you're talking
asking
about that.
for
Yeah, yeah,
for some crazy
yeah.
results. I
Mm.
mean, to be fair, the one plus point is it's probably going to expand the reach of cricket a little bit. USA
Yeah,
and Canada are
okay.
also the other two that have come in. Yeah, so Kuv, I have to take you back at least one more time just to tie up that India debate. I mean, as I said earlier, brave call, bold call. Do you think Rohit Sharma, having been the best T20 international captain for India, his stats are there to show for it? You think he's going to be able to handle it? You think he'll be able to stand up proud and tall and rule the
Mm.
roost?
Yeah. So as much as we all agree that we all think that Hardik is a trash captain, I think it all boils down to Rohit. If he can put all that to the side and be the leader and the captain that the team needs,
Hmm.
and the leader and captain that we know he can be, then chances are that they'll be fine. But if he lets it affect him, and if he starts making decisions where he feels like he needs to prove his captaincy credentials and make decisions that he probably wouldn't have made a year and a half, 2 years ago, then it might be a problem. But if he can still remain neutral and still remain calm with a cool head on his shoulders, yeah. So if he can find a cool head on his shoulders, then he'll be good to go, and the team might prosper. I personally don't think that it will happen. I just think there's too much of toxicity around that whole debate, and I just think it's too fresh. I think that's my main concern,
Hmm, hmm,
is
hmm,
that
hmm.
it's that they haven't had time to digest it before the tournament has started, and I don't know how professional they can be about it. I hope they prove me wrong,
Yeah,
but
look,
that's just my view.
another thing is like, when Smith became the South African captain, many people asked why, and I'm taking it back too far, but I'll bring it full circle. But then
Hmm.
as time went on, you realize that, okay, he's a good batsman, but he also commands respect. Now, take you back to the last two World Cups. Rohit has been severely out of touch in the last two World Cups. And we kept asking, why is he there? Why is he there? Why are we doing it? in the side when we have all these kids that are playing amazingly well. Why bring in Rohit instead of Sanju, which I know you want to touch on later? Again, he commands respect. If not Rohit as captain, who would have been the captain for India? So same thing. Rohit coming in here, I don't think Hardik's going to have much of a say or much. Yeah, he's going to want to needle. He's going to want to say, "Hey, I told the captain this, and the captain didn't listen." But I think Rohit, what he says is final because again, he's got that Smith figure to me now. When he came in as a lighty, like you didn't take him seriously, and then later on, doesn't matter what I say goes. You know what I mean? You own the dressing room as a captain.
The thing is, they aren't, even though there are a lot of leaders, at least at the IPL level, a lot of leaders like Sanju Samson, who's captain for RR, and Kohli, who's in their previous leader, so to say, still a big figurehead for that Indian side. I think Rohit is by far the most important cog in that whole machine right now. If that
Because
doesn't
of
work
what you're
out very
saying, you need
well,
a captain of captains. You've got
yes,
many captains in the
essentially,
side,
very
and
aptly
no
put.
one's going to take Sanju. Nothing about Sanju. He's an amazing player. No one's going to take Sanju seriously in a tournament like this, or ever playing for India, right? Same with Hardik. You can't put a clown to lead your Indian side, but
Yeah, but devil's
you
advocate
know,
now. I'll play devil's
mm,
advocate. Is that possible to be a captain of captains if one of your captains was your captain?
That's a very,
well,
very, very
he
fair point.
clearly didn't do a job, and you've done that job for that franchise for years. So
Yeah.
what does that say?
And that's why
You
I
came in here,
feel
this golden boy. They brought in a golden boy to come here, and
hmm,
yeah, look what he did.
like if it was me, if I was Rohit, my feelings would be hurt, and I don't think I'd be able to put it to a side
Look,
at
as
that
much
I'd
as
respect.
be
I
more hurt if he did well in the IPL. I'd be laughing at him now. Think about it. Think about it. Right? Think about it. Like
Uh,
Rohit didn't do so badly in the World Cup. I mean, he even came back into form in the last 50 over World Cup when everyone was like, why Rohit again? He was a
no,
captain. He came into
definitely.
this tournament. He played well. His stats looked good. But if Hardik took them into the finals or maybe even the semi-finals, he could have been like, "Hey, smart move by the Ambanis to bring in this kid. This kid really came in and fucked everything up." To a point where
You
Rohit
see,
can
that's
be
what
like,
lies though. So, as much as he's probably not the best captain that they could have used to succeed, Rohit, a lot of what's gone wrong there comes down to the ownership and the management team. I think there hasn't been enough.
hmm.
Not enough of the attention has been switched over to that end of the whole, or that part of the pie. Everything's gone directly to Hardik, which I actually feel a bit bad for him. I mean, I've been a Mumbai Indians fan, I've been a Rohit fan since forever, but I've decided not to choose a side in this whole thing because I feel like Hardik, he had to go into work every day, booed but expected to perform. Right? His captaincy is a completely different thing, but his performance is on the field. Okay, it's professional sports and you kind of have to get used to it. But you're at home, you have 20,000 fans behind you, actively booing you and expecting you to, or wanting you to be as poor as you can. And when in essence,
I
all that
don't
was
buy that.
done
I
was
don't buy that. He's
the
always been a
the
controversial
management.
figure. Hardik's
You
always
know,
been
fair, fair,
hated.
fair, fair enough. But he hasn't been taking it that far. There were kids booing. It got to a point where, look, Kohli had to speak to the crowd, asking him to stop booing him in the Mumbai RCB game.
Mm,
It became ridiculous at times. And Nita Ambani and Anand and the rest sat there every day watching this happen. Pollard came out and made a statement about it. Look, stop this nonsense. He's still our captain now, whatever decision was made. But he didn't physically hold Mumbai to ransom, saying, "You have to drop
mm,
Rohit from captain. I'm coming here. If I don't come here, the club is over." Nope. They wanted him. He had won and finished second as captain with Gujarat. Why would he take a downgrade in his career? He could be a shit captain that got lucky twice in a row, but his resume
mm.
says won one IPL, finished second in the next season. If I come back, you've got to offer me a big contract, one for jumping ship, to a team that gave me a chance when you decided not to retain me in the face of that mass auction. So
And
even
also
though,
switch it
yeah, as
on,
you said,
switch it the other way around. Well, he's a captain that's coming in as a captain, won an IPL, finished second as an IPL, and also played really well in Mumbai. In the past, he's got so many trophies from that Mumbai. He was
if
amazing at Mumbai, but he never had a say. He never had a say, and you could
yes,
see when he went to
I agree
Gujarat,
with that.
his head grew bigger than because again he was under Rohit's captaincy all that time in Mumbai.
But again, what I'm saying is not down to his captaincy credentials. I'm saying he walked into an interview with all the cards in his hand. And the fact that the Mumbai Indians board decided to make that decision, I think a lot of it must rest with them because they did Rohit really dirty. He's been their captain for a long time, and the way they went
Mm.
about changing the guard was pathetic. Not even a word. He found out from his mates posting about it on Instagram. That is absolutely ridiculous. For a club, Mumbai Indians
Yeah.
are probably the most well funded club in the IPL. They're possibly the biggest franchise. And they come out and Surya Kumar Yadav and Bumrah are posting on
What's up,
Instagram crying,
boy?
saying this is dirty. I think, yeah, club washed in that sense. But yeah, now we go back, and as we mentioned earlier, Sanju Samson. Now we have, I'm not sure what Yukov, but I know our
Mm,
other shot who isn't here today is a massive Sanju fan, and you'll get to hear about that hopefully at
mm.
some point during the World Cup. Sanju Samson, up until me looking very deeply into his stats, I backed him wholeheartedly, and I always had the feeling that India were doing him a disservice by not including him in more of their squads. What do you guys make of Sanju, and do we think he's going to have a massive impact in the World Cup, regardless of India's performance as a whole?
Okay. First question:
Do you want me to start with the
do you
Sanju
think he's
love
the
story?
starting keeper? Do you think he's the starting keeper, or is it punt?
I think he's a massively better keeper. That's my personal
No.
opinion.
But who do you think they're gonna start? Do you think they're gonna start
Look,
Sanju?
I have always had this opinion that the Indian keeper, at least in the last 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 years, has been decided on the other out and out batsman in the team. Pandya has the advantage that he bats at 5 or 6. They've got a
Mm,
pretty solid top order, and Sanju. I know I had a conversation outside of this with Kums, and we spoke a bit about how Sanju has been a bit of, as we would say, a tube. They've been tossing him around and asking him to bat in different roles constantly. And I mean, they could do that again, but then it's more likely that they'll actually go punt because he
I
bats
think
so
so.
deep down low.
I think they're gonna go with punt. He's had a good IPL. He had a very good IPL. He
Yeah.
came back into form. BCCI are all about the fairy tale headlines. It's gonna
Mm,
be,
mm, mm.
well, how amazing will it be? Oh, this guy was out for so long. He came back. He had a good IPL, and he took us to World Cup glory. That makes for
Mm-hmm.
better reading than, oh, we gave Sanju a chance. So I think Sanju is just there for the ride, if I'm being honest. Even though he had an amazing IPL, I think they're gonna go with punt.
So I'm going to start off with probably be a bit long, but you jump over me and cut me off when you think it's too much. Sanju, watched him from day one, playing with Rahul Dravid, amazing player. Played next to a classical player that started adapting for T20. Sanju was his little kid that started playing those classical shots and taking it. Then he said his surname is Samson, strong man, and he wanted to live up to that surname. So he started going to the gym. And then what we saw from Sanju was something out of this world. We saw a classical player that could suddenly hit the ball for six. Seeing a player hit the ball over extra cover for six so nonchalantly like Josh Butler, that's very rare. That's very rare. And you get that in Sanju Samson. You get him just take one step down the track and flick a ball because he's so strong now and he's so classical at the same time. He's got both elements to the game. And I think that's what's disappointing me about Sanju because we expected such big things from him. He's such an amazing player, but it feels like he's losing his brain at times because he comes in, he gets himself into amazing positions or he gets a chance, an Indian call up, and then he goes and messes it up. But one thing to play devil's advocate on the other side of the stick on that conversation is someone like Punt. When you talk about Punt as a keeper, we know him or we come to know him as a hard-hitting finisher. middle order batsman, right? And that's his role. That's what he's known for. Sanju's never been really given a role. Sanju's always been asked to do different things at different times. So at one point, you want him to be a finisher, to bat your number 5 or 6 in India. You want him to bat number 3 and come in and hold an innings, change the course of an innings, change the momentum of the innings. In Rajasthan, in the years have gone by, but someone like Punt, no, there's no two ways about it. You can't ask him to defend, even if he's going to play a test cricket. It worked out so well for him when he came and smashed Australia around the park. But again, he wasn't asked to do the different things that Sanju has been asked to do, and I feel that's a bit unfair. So two things can happen there: is you can get lost in yourself. Do I become a classical number 3 and number 4, or do I work on becoming a number 6 to make it into the Indian side? And then how do you change your mindset? Because it requires two different batsmen. One technically sound batsman and one hard hitting, lost cop kind of batsman at the bottom. And I think that's unfortunately for Sanju, that's the place he found himself in. Where, but yeah, it's a love story. I've always been a Sanju fan, and I really wish this kid comes now and makes a name for himself in this World Cup.
Look, he's not too far gone. Sanju's still surprisingly. I mean, he walked into the scene in 2015. He's 29, exactly. He came in 2015 and then had to sit out for something like 4.5 years in between. I share the sentiment with you. Watching Sanju bat, he's elegant, he's classic, he's class. Just simply put. The problem is, and it might be for the reasons that you've just mentioned, being tossed up and down the order. His numbers for India are pathetic. He averages under 20. And most of the runs that he's made are down to a single 77 score against Ireland in a game where they made 220 themselves. So it hasn't come to fruition yet for Sanju. But regardless of how India's World Cup goes, I want to see some Sanju action. I want to see it like you. I want to see it come good for him. Because going forward, even though Punt might still be in that side, there might be an opening for Sanju to now sit higher up that order with Kohli potentially transitioning his career into maybe, I would think, franchise cricket, and Rohit possibly going to step away not too long from now. Sanju's lucky that he still has some time on his hands, and unfortunately for him, like they did with Punt, Jaiswal has gotten a straight nod in. You're gonna bat open sun forever. Your life's made.
Exactly my point. Exactly my point. No one's told, if you think about like Test cricket back in the day, you were an amazing opener in the shorter form. You come and bat number 6 in Test cricket, right? All of the openers have done that. Kuni de Kock, all the openers come in young opener, come bat number 6.
You bat
Jaiswal, Jaiswal,
open,
and he's an amazing
all
player.
formats.
Nothing bad against Jaiswal, right? Nothing bad against him. Amazing player, young kid. But no, you don't have to bat number 6, number 5, number 4. You just come open the batting and you play your crazy cricket the way you play. We're not going to say anything about you. Come in and try and hit every ball for a 6. If you get it wrong, the next guys will pick up the pieces.
I agree. Similarly, Shubman Gill and Ruturaj Gaikwad they probably also have a shot going down the line. But you've alluded to a few there, Quinton de Kock, and I want to pick on him. Quinny has come back into the side. When he retired from ODI cricket, I was of the very firm opinion that Quinny's career at international level is washed. He's gone down south very fast when it comes to his franchise T20 cricket. And now he comes back in, and it's what the hell is going on? He's going to be keeping Ryan Rickleton out of the South Africa side. Quinton's going to be opening with Riza, and I think it probably isn't the best move for us. Now, on that note, what do you guys think about the South African squad? And if we can just both, if you guys can just both give me what you think would be your preferred lineup or starting 11.
Yeah, to touch on Quinny, I think Quinny of old worked with Riza Hendricks. Quinny being given the freedom as a young opener to go and do what he wants to do. That has changed. The Quinny that started playing well recently, I know he's had a big dip in form, but let's look a year back. is a different Quinny. The Quinny that played in the World Cup, as an example, is a Quinny that held his nerve and batted a bit deeper. It's not going to work with Riza Hendricks, unfortunately. You need Riza Hendricks, and is the type that's going to hold the innings and typically bat a bit deeper. And I also think it's really unfair on Ryan Rickelton, who's been playing well. Going to the squad, what do I think of the squad? Um, I don't know, man. I think all our players at the moment individually are playing well around the world. As a unit, can they work together? Hopefully, as a Sunrisers fan, hopefully under Markram's leadership, we can get something better out of them. Uh, he's won two finals with the Sunrise Eastern Cape, like I said earlier. He's also brought in that leadership abilities into this Sunrisers Hyderabad team. So maybe that thing of being chokers and that is gone now. Let's be honest, man. The chokers kids are now playing for eligible to play for South Africa. So that thing's long gone now. They just need to wake up and come and play cricket.
So my opinion on the whole South African squad is quite simple. We do not have the luxury of going into the tournament and then figuring out what the best lineup is. We've got a difficult group. On paper, it looks like an easy group, but it's not. It's Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Netherlands. Netherlands is the bogey team. We can't, in an ideal world, I'd have one of the other whooping boys, as we said, and maybe if we have a bad game in the group stage, then we can reassess and say, okay, case A, we started with this team. This team is doing well. We'll push forward. If they're not doing well, okay, maybe we can change something up. I don't think we have that luxury. The decisions that we make, game one, is going to dictate the entire tournament. That's the way I feel. And whether it's Rickelton, De Kock, Riza, two of the three of them, whichever way we go, I just hope that we make the right decision. Me personally, I feel that it should be Rickelton and Riza, because I think Quinny is just too out of form from the SA20. From the SA20, he's been out of form.
One thing before we go further, right? I think the whole of South Africa is thinking this is an injustice if we don't say, can we just have a moment of silence for not having Temba not being in the squad? Because he's been there for the last 3 years, and I think even people that don't know anything about cricket, I'd meet people on the street like, oh yeah, cricket, oh yeah, Jack Culler's still playing. No, but why is Temba in the squad? Yeah, so let's just have a moment there.
We'll give Temba his moment. I mean, he did his service. Cricket and politics in South Africa, interesting stuff. And I'd like to leave Temba behind and go back to what Kuv was saying. We don't have a whooping boy at all because the other team in the group is Nepal, who are also equally. They have their moments. They've shown on the international stage, although with minnows and weaker teams, they can definitely play. Sandeep Lamichane, if he still is playing cricket, they have a few lads in there that can definitely shake up and mix it up. For me,
and if you think about it, Nepal, that's our last game. So
yes,
there's no advantage gained by playing them
Mm.
earlier. So, I mean, it's Sri Lanka, Netherlands, then Bangladesh. And I could
be gone home
easily see that going sideways if we don't have the combination correct.
Yeah, so we play the first 4 in New York, if I'm not mistaken, and the last one we head back down to Kingstown in a stadium that hasn't been played in since 2014. The last game there was a test between West Indies and Pakistan, if I'm not mistaken. Complete unknown. That, as you're saying, we might not even get to that point. The pitch in New York is going to be hopefully something a bit more flat. It's being prepared currently by the pitch curator that dealt with the Adelaide Oval and Eden Park in New Zealand. They've brought in a bunch of pitches from Florida, shipped in with the whole square intact. And it looks like we're probably going to get 70-meter boundaries or so. So not the shortest, but definitely something that will be fairly firm, good for the batting. Now, when it comes to our batting lineup, I think we have a lot of class in that batting lineup. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to figure out what the right balance is. But there definitely is the quality in that lineup to perform.
Klaasen is there. We don't need to say anything about him. He's known worldwide now.
Exactly.
And
Yeah, no,
the other
people
guy,
could say
All of
Klaas
them,
is their
like I was
stop.
the
saying,
other guy. No, the other guy is
all of
Stubbs.
them individually
Like
are playing really
Stubbs.
well. Yeah.
Stubbs is on another level at the moment. If you
Tristan
look at his
Stubbs,
stats for the IPL,
I must
I would argue that he outperformed Klaasen in the IPL. If you take away those,
largely,
if you take away
yeah.
those 270, 260 games where Klaasen scored like 60 and 80 of 30, 40 balls, but consistently Stubbs has been the go-to guy for Delhi because I think probably like 7 or 8 out of the games, they were 4 wickets down by the 10th over. Stubbs had to come in, and he played
Exactly
different types
that.
of innings as well. So he's really matured this IPL. So I have high hopes for him in the tournament.
Yeah, Stubbs actually ended the IPL with 378 runs. That's an average of 54 and a strike rate of 190. Absolutely crazy. And as you're saying, Kuv, he came into a lot of games with the side under pressure. I saw him play against Mumbai and make a 60 some odd. Completely against the wall, backs against the wall.com. And he found a way to still back very aggressively and very well. And I must own up to my sins there. I thought Tristan Stubbs' career was washed. After probably give it a year and a half ago, before some good form in the SA20 with Sunrise Eastern Cape, I thought that he was going south. He looked like a lost boy of sorts. Batting in the middle order, he seemed like he didn't know what to do with a shorter ball or the slower ball, and he just didn't find any flow. Then he went
No,
into the domestic scene and performed really well in first class cricket. He made a 300, and then ever since that day, no looking back. The man has absolutely. I think
I'm
he's
with
going to be
you.
one of our most important players.
I'm with you. 2 years ago, I would have put Brevis over Stubbs, but now that sounds idiotic.
Yeah, Brevis is. It's sad, but he looks like he needs time again.
I actually thought Stubbs was on his way coming back to play for the Netherlands because, fun fact, if you didn't know, he started his career here and then got called up for South Africa and became, a little lighty in their squad. Had he been here, he'd be one of the stars of our cricket side.
Oh, our. So I'm just gonna go in and just chirp a little bit. So finally, we've gotten to steal something from you then. No,
Yeah.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Of course, with all of that said, what do we think is going to be the final four? Now, we're going to close off on this. I want both of you guys to give me your final four in any order. Kuv chose to be controversial earlier. So if you want to be bold, you can give me the winner right now. We'll look back on it closer to the end of the tournament. But your final four in any order.
I really like the look of the Afghanistan team, especially after the 50 over World Cup. With these pitches,
No way. No way.
with these pitches, listen, with these pitches and Noor's form, Rashid and Mujib, and that opening to middle order, they've shown in the 50 over World Cup and they've shown by the IPL contracts that they've got, they can hold an innings together. You saw Gurbaz came in for Salt in the last 2 games and he just performed out of nowhere.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying they're going to make the top 4. I just wanted to get that in there because if they were in any other group along with one big team, then I would have made them for at least the Super 8s and maybe the semis. They're in a difficult group. They've got New Zealand and they've got West Indies to deal with. I really do think 2 of the 4 quarterfinalists will come from that group. So I think it's going to be either West Indies, New Zealand, and Afghanistan. Two of the 4 will come from there. I've got to give West Indies the home advantage. I think Australia is going to be there. And I'm going to give my final spot to South Africa.
I was waiting. I was under the impression he's going to go, you know what? I'm just going to go wild with this prediction here and completely write the boys off.
So I'm going to go South Africa, Australia, and 2 out of New Zealand, West Indies, Afghanistan.
Okay. Combs?
Yeah, I mean, we'd all like to see South Africa there. I think I touched on it earlier. South Africa, New Zealand. Um, and then the other two for me, probably going to be Australia, England, just for experience. Again, experience with playing cricket around the world, and not just playing on a particular type of venue. That's purely the reason I'm not picking the subcontinent teams. Who's going to make the upset? Again, it's not an upset of getting into the semi-final or whatever. It's that team that everyone's going to talk about. Like, you know, when they spoke about Bangladesh, when they spoke about Netherlands in the last World Cup as an example. I don't know. It's gonna be fun. I agree with Kuv with Afghanistan. That'll be nice to see. But I'm hoping maybe someone else, maybe Ireland or something like that. Yeah.
I am going to go, and obviously, I'm going to start off with South Africa. I'm going to be a bit bold here. You can shoot me for it later on. I think we're finally going to get it done. We're going to bury the chokers tag and everything else that came with it. There's going to be a lot of commotion that goes on in South Africa afterwards, but I think we're finally going to get one over the line. I think we'll come up trumps. Somehow or the other, there's enough quality there to finally win a World Cup. So South Africa to win. And I think the rest will come from. I like the shot of Afghanistan. I'm not going to go with it though. I am going to be controversial on the other end, and I think India might actually sneak in. I think the key is going to be that on these slower pitches, whether we like it or not, they have some of the best spinners in the world, and they could have really horrible performances, but they're going to get wickets and they're going to make it very difficult for opposition teams to score. I'll then go with the age-old Australia because I do think they have a lot of quality. And then it's a toss-up for me between England and New Zealand for the fourth spot. Again, a mix of experience and some fair firepower in it. Unfortunately for the hosts, West Indies and of course USA, God praise them for actually playing cricket and not just baseball. I don't think West Indies will make it to the final four. So South Africa, India, Australia, and England will be my final four.
I like how we're all writing off West Indies.
I didn't. I put them in my
agree
four,
with.
bro.
he,
I put them in.
he
I put
went
them in
one
my
of
four and
them.
a half.
Yeah,
My
come
four and
into
a
the
half.
4.5. Come into the 4.5.
In your 4.5. Yeah. Yeah, West Indies, I mean, I think we know the problems with them. But they're probably going to give you some exciting cricket. It's also their home conditions. Um, but yeah, man. Lack of
No, and the other
lack
thing with
of
the West Indies, they've been playing. So they had a
Yes.
fair few people in the IPL.
I
They had
mean, I
Yeah,
mean,
it's the same thing
been
though. Individually, they're playing really well. But when have they played well as a team?
I
When
mean,
last have they played well as a team?
I need to justify a lot of what I've said because a lot of people that have been watching international cricket at the moment will point out that South Africa have been smashed 3-0 in the series against
exactly
West Indies. But the
Hmm.
big
fair.
point is we have a completely different middle order, and
No, but that
it reflects.
doesn't take
They,
away
they
from how
played
well
well.
West
They
Indies
played well.
played.
They have
So
played well, and a lot of that team are going to be included: Gudakesh Morty and Obed McCoy and Shamar Joseph and the likes. They will be there. They've been playing well. The top order, there will be some changes. They're bringing in some power hitters like Andre Russell and Nicholas Pooran will come back to the side. Shimron Hetmeyer and Romario Shepherd just came back. Now, so lots of power, lots of balance. They've got a lot of all rounders in that team, which definitely will help. But for some reason or other, I think that
nah,
they are like
they've got a good
sunrises.
team.
It either works out perfectly or it falls to absolute crap. So
We've got to
I think
give
as
them a
we
little bit
start,
of an edge with the home conditions. I just think
no,
it'll
they
play a
do.
massive part.
Yeah, no, I'm saying fair that you got to give them credit for the home conditions. I think it's very tricky, and I've watched quite a bit of cricket in the CPL. Just go and Google and look at the scores that you see in CPL. Look at the type of innings that are played there, where it starts off brilliantly in the power play and then just dips. Look at international cricket that happened there in recent times. You get games where teams make 200 on a really good day with perfect conditions, and then you get a day where there's rain or massive wind,
Mm.
or pitches that are just dog shit, unfortunately, for batting. And then you got to bring in your spinners and things like that. So yeah, that. But West Indies have always had players individually that played really well, but as a unit, you almost have like 11 finishes in your side, and I think that's been the biggest downfall.
On that note, as we mentioned earlier, captains are important here. Rovman Powell, the West Indies captain, this one quite an interesting pick for me. I don't know if he holds a lot of or commands a lot of respect in that dressing room, but that'll be news to me. He seems like a timid guy that is a big hitter, can do a bit on the pitch, but will he be able to keep
Shea
all
Hope,
those
where's
Russian
Shea Hope?
characters? He
Shea
is
Hope would
there.
have been
He's
a better
there.
captain for me.
He's in the squad. Brandon King's also there. He captained them now in the T20 series against South Africa. There are leaders in there, but again, West Indies cricket or modern West Indies cricket, interesting characters. That's what they bring to the party. They bring characters, they bring energy, but leadership, I can't
Mm,
entirely back that. Home
Putting my
advantage,
neck,
100%.
putting my neck on the line. India
Yeah,
bad
you've done it.
tournament, West Indies good tournament.
You've done it a few times today. So I think we're gonna call that for this first episode. It's been a good one. A lot of chat. Now, of course, it was 3 shots and a dot, but we only had 2 shots and a dot today. One missing. Now, going forward, we'll hopefully be able to bring you guys an episode every week or so. With the World Cup coming up, we have a lot to chat about. Now, if you've enjoyed this one, of course, don't forget to drop us a like and hit subscribe. Help us cast this out to the world. Now, if you're just listening and not viewing, maybe pop into YouTube when you can, and you'll get a little look at us and get to know us a bit better over the course of the series. Until the next one, stay all frosty. Don't forget to pour a shot, and cheers.